Hey, this is Steve Fouts with Teach Different. Welcome to our new Think Aloud series. We're going to call them vlogs because they're basically video blogs that are going to help you through the three-step process, and you're going to be able to get to watch the mental routine that you need to go through to make the three-step process happen. I'm going to go through mental routines with you. I'm going to pick a quote and I'm going to show you, how this works. And you're going to find that it's very simple on its face, what the three-step process is. But if you're really going to do it well, you have to be very genuine and you have to really second guess yourself and think critically about the quotes that you really find meaning in. And I'm going to start with one I've always liked. It's one by Dr. Seuss. And here it is. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Okay, I've always loved this quote. It's short. It gets to the real meaning, I think, behind, how you really deal with events, especially events that don't go your way. Any disappointments you might have or sadness you might experience. What's Dr. Seuss saying here? He's basically saying, you could sit there and focus on all the things that aren't right and the fact that it's over, but why not just appreciate the things that happened the right way and the smiles that you had while things were going well? Don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive. I really think if I were to state the claim that Dr. Seuss is making, here's what I would say. Accept reality and be appreciative. Right? And that's basically where he's coming from. It sounds like he's saying that you don't want to focus on the negatives of life, but you want to focus on things that make you smile. And your mind actually has the power to do that, presumably, right? So why not use it? And this is what I really like about the quote. It keeps a positive message. How do you appreciate the good things in life so you don't get sidetracked by the things that disappoint you? Now, it sounds like good advice, right? But I'm going to take a counter argument to it, all right? This is step 2 of the three-step process. We just did step 1. We picked a quote. We came up with a theme. This is step 2, which is a counter argument. I'm going to give another way to look at this where you could actually look at Dr. Seuss and say he actually doesn't have it right. There's a better way to look at the world and how you process events. So here's what I came up with. Express your emotions even when it hurts. Now, I know everybody out there has had emotions, has cried before, has been disappointed, right? And a lot of times when you cry, you get stuff out. You go through this terrible disappointment where you think the world is ending and you sit there and sob and you spend a few days just not wanting to talk to anybody. But going through that process itself, you realize a little later with some time that actually the world maybe is okay and that all the bad that you were thinking is not so bad. And you actually can get over this, okay? But how did you get over it? You went over it by expressing your emotions, by being disappointed. So if you look at Dr. Seuss, who's saying, hey, don't be disappointed, don't be crying, smile because it happened. If he's expecting us to do that immediately whenever something bad happens, it's like we're not able to process the disappointment and express those emotions, which maybe is what really will help us get over it. Not just this mental trick that Dr. Seuss is suggesting. So that's going to be my counter argument to this. Express your emotions even when it hurts. Okay, now we're done with step 1. We found a quote, we stated a claim. We're done with step 2. We came up with a counter argument to that claim. And we're basically saying that there's 2 ways to look at the world that are pretty rational here, okay? These are the things you're going to need when you're ready to bring this quote to class and you put it on the board and you get the students to read it. And then all you really need to do is pass out the slips of paper to the students, ask them for their reactions, get a conversation going. You know, you've got your claim ready. You've got your counter argument ready, just in case there isn't anyone who disagrees with Dr. Seuss. There will be, by the way. Students always disagree with it. But you're prepared for a discussion, almost. Okay? Step 3 is this essential question you want to build that's based off the routine you just went through, the mental exercise you just went through with the quote. Okay, now I'm going to come up with an essential question here that's actually tied to something in U.S. history, because that's what I taught. And it doesn't matter what you're teaching. Just know that, you know, the question I'm going to share with you is something that I plan to immediately use in my classroom after I introduce the Dr. Seuss quote and we've already had a conversation. Okay, and this will hopefully make the conversation more interesting. The students are going to have some things in their mind that they're already thinking about that will really help them care about this essential question, so you can get a really good conversation going. So here's my essential question. Did Lincoln appreciate the South in his second inaugural? Okay, I want you to notice a couple things about this question. Number one, it's a binary question, which basically means that it has to be answered with a yes or a no. Now, this is really important in essential questions and something you always want to keep in mind. You want to force students to take a position on something, and then you're going to get them to defend themselves later. But it's important to have a yes or no question to kick it off. Now, for those of you who aren't really up on U.S. history much, the second inaugural was a speech that Lincoln gave at the end of the Civil War. He had just gotten reelected to become president. And, you know, he had some memorable lines in there about talking about how the nation needs to heal its wounds and how the South and the North, although they disagreed, they suffered together and they needed the same type of help in order to, as he would say, bind up the nation's wounds. Okay? This essential question takes the word appreciate, which is what we worked with Dr. Seuss, if you go back, right? Should you appreciate what's happened and just smile, or should you go through the emotions of being disappointed and crying over spilled milk, right? This word appreciate is something that the students can really latch onto, and they're going to have more of it's more of like an approach and an engagement with that word, which will hopefully get them more interested in having an opinion about Lincoln after having gone through the Dr. Seuss quote and the conversation that happened before it. This is essentially the 3-step process. Step 1 is finding the quote, stating your claim that the quote is making. Step 2 is getting that good counter argument. And then step 3, which we just ended with, which is getting this essential question, right? This is what you want to have ready when you come in and introduce this quote to your students. So I hope you've enjoyed this first Think Aloud video. We plan to come out with more and more of these because we really want to model this process for you. We have a course that's available that actually teaches this process that I really encourage you to take a look at. We'll basically take you through, make sure you understand the process from start to finish, and then in the online course, you're gonna end up creating 3 essential questions and 3 conversation contexts, really, that you can bring to your classroom so that you can watch this 3-step process in action. And I guarantee you, if you do it right and the conversations are real and they're genuine, you're going to get everybody participating, even your shyest students. So I really encourage you to take a look at the course, and thanks for taking time with me.